Yo, right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the MMF Podcast. Oh my God, today your topic is scary AF. Sebab we are going to be talking about children with regards to Islamic inheritance. My two brothers here have their own children as well, who they take care of, who they love, hopefully. Can you do love the children in your care, yes?
I think so.
Wow, dude.
I hope so.
Yeah. Like I always tell everybody, oh, the love is there. The sayang kadang-kadang je. But yeah, so I mean, we've been doing Islamic inheritance consultations for our clients for so long. And very, very common, we hear people, for example, I got no sons. I only have daughters. How does this affect, my Faraid? How does this affect my assets? And we all know that when you only have daughters, sometimes the assets will go outside of the family. Kan?
Yep.
Kan. Asri, have you heard of anybody with similar stories to that?
It hasn't happened yet. A friend of mine did approach me previously when I told him I was in this line. So he was asking what his options are, what's going to happen, because he has two daughters, no sons. So I told him what the options are, how his Faraid circle is gonna be. So he had to come to terms with it lah.
Yeah, and that's true. To share a story, which is one of my closer clients, is he's got two daughters, and his father is still alive. So his concern is when his father passes away, there is no more male heir, no more male beneficiary, which therefore means a portion of his estate will then go to either his uncle, that means the father's brother, or his brother. And so when we looked at it, his daughters got a reasonably large share, but there was some leakage that goes here and goes there, goes to his brother, may have gone to his uncle, and if his brother's not around, maybe even go to his cousin. So this is a scary part. I mean, at the end of the day, for us here, when we give our clients our consults, we look at it and say, this is scenario A. If you pass away, these are the people who get your assets. But then again, we also look at what happens before scenario A, right? Zul, I mean, we talked about the estate planning tools. When you cover the portion about assets in the class, what happens to the assets, especially when there's joint ownership?
It will fall to the survivor. It was the right of survivorship. So if you have a joint account, if you pass on, the account rightfully belongs to the other party.
Yeah, like for example, with children, we all have what we call the CDA accounts, the child development accounts with the kids. So for those of you who are watching, you're looking at your kids' accounts and you see the names, right? You as the parent are the trustee, which means you're in charge of the account. The account doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the child. So if you do have some assets you want to give away to your kids, you can absolutely open a child account or a trustee account with a bank. Then the money by right belongs to the child, so that when we pass away, it goes to our lovely children, hopefully lovely, hopefully lovely, when we pass away, and doesn't go to us. So that's one other way. But Zul, what else? What other ways can we use to give our assets to our loved ones? Children.
Nominations? You can always nominate, like our CPF for our children.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. If you both have not done your nominations, you can absolutely nominate your kids. My advice to everybody watching, you want to nominate to your children. There was that horror story, remember? Okay, so story time. The lady who called us crying, saying that in a few more months, the son is going to turn 18 years old and the CPF monies from his deceased father would go to him to the tune of about a couple of $100,000. Right? Remember the story?
Yep.
So he was so concerned because the monies were not nominated. And so it went to the public trustee's office, waiting for the son to turn 18, which he would turn 18 in a few more months, and he would get all of that money. Then we checked in with that lady a few years later. She told us this. The money's all gone. Jang, jang, jang.
18 years old with tens of thousands. Woohoo!
Imagine that. Imagine where were we when we were 18? Imagine we got $200,000. Foo yo, bro.
I'll straight away buy a new car, man.
Most likely, right? Just buy a car. I mean, and so for those of you out there with parents who are with children, parents with children, you're going to nominate your CPF monies. You can absolutely nominate in two ways. Number one, give it in cash to them. So that means when I die today, boom, my children dapat cash check. Wow, daddy left me behind many zeros. Or you can absolutely choose to nominate using the enhanced nomination scheme to go to their CPF, which is what I have done with my children. So I nominate my kids to get a portion of my CPF under the enhanced nomination scheme. When I die, the money doesn't go to them in cash, it goes to their CPF. So at least it preserves some of that money, and we know CPF gives us a reasonably good interest rate. And by the time, inshallah, they hit their 50s, that money would have ballooned and grown even more. Yes?
Okay, quick question. For cases like this, does the PTO actually automatically waits for him to turn 18 and automatically transfer to him, or he had to make the approach to the public trustee office for it?
Fantastic question. And so, folks, we have to understand this. The PTO, Public Trustee's Office, will not inform the beneficiaries unless they have been nominated. And so, if we know someone has passed away, and those CPF monies are not nominated, the beneficiaries will need to go to the PTO's office and say, hey, I am the beneficiary of the deceased. Are there any CPF monies for me? And you'll say, yeah, there is. And so if you're minor, when you're 18, then they give it to you. If you're already an adult, they will pay out to you. But again, point to note, if it's only unnominated, if it has been nominated, the nominee, the beneficiary, will get a letter saying, the deceased has nominated you as the beneficiary.
So, let me get it checked. As long as it's not being claimed, it's unnominated, it will still stay in the PTO account for as long as
Yeah.
Because I have a scenario that comes to mind. This guy came and asked me about, I think last year, when he heard I was doing this. So the scenario is that his late mother passed on when he was 3 years old. That was 30 years ago. So mom is a civil servant, definitely have a substantial amount of CPF in her account. So when she passed on, he is the only son. So definitely at that point of time, there's no nomination. 30 years ago, we're not heard of nomination. And now he's 30 plus. He's about 33. So he's asking me, by any chance, do I have any money with my late mom's CPF? So
I mean, probably.
so I say probably go and check. I don't know. Then after that, and he never get back to me.
I mean, it's worth it to go and check. Go and check. Similar story. A very, very close friend of mine. His father passed away when he was 8 years old, and he has 3 other siblings. So he's the fourth child. Today, he is in his mid-40s already. And so he was telling me that a few years ago, one of his older brothers suddenly had a thought. Hey, arwah bapa ada CPF tak? Does our late father have CPF? Somebody said, I don't know. Let's go check. And true enough, there were some CPF monies being held by the PTO over the past 30 over years for the rest of the beneficiaries. Nobody thought to check. Because the father just passed away, 33, 35 years ago, before at that point, 33 to 35 years ago at that point, and nobody checked. So how important is it, for us to have nominations? Because at that point, the story gets worse. At that point, when he was 8 years old, his siblings were already in their teenagers, late teens already, some of them. When his father passed away, leaving behind the mother and the 4 children, they were in very, very difficult times. Very, very difficult times, because he was the sole breadwinner. And when he passed on, he left behind his wife, who was a homemaker, to raise 4 children by herself. And what I heard from my good friend was this, that she started, starting a home-based business. She bought kuih, sell, epo-epo and all that. And she put through all 4 children through university had to, scrimp and save, do their best that they can to put them through education. And my only thought at that point was, if the late father had nominated the wife as the beneficiary, wouldn't that have at least covered a little of this?
Cushion their finances.
And so nominations are so important, and especially when it comes to children. So back to our topic at hand, which is children when it comes to Faraid, right? If you have a son, some people say, oh, ada anak lelaki, it's fine. Okay. If you have a son and it stays within your family circle, it's not so bad. But have we seen cases where the son has passed on? Right? There are accidents that happen. There are cases where the son passes on. And so there is one scenario where if your father is not around and your son has passed away, you would think that the inner circle is broken and then you go to uncles, brothers, cousins, and all that.
Yeah.
There is one scenario. If your son has a son, a grandson from a son can block the inner circle from breaking into the outer circle. So far, I have not encountered it myself in my personal experience, but that is something that's very interesting that a lot of people didn't know. And it must be a son from a son, not a son from a daughter. This one, my personal experience. My late grandfather passed away. He has 4 daughters. I am the first grandson. So my mom is the oldest daughter. I am the oldest grandson. But no, when my grandfather passed away, the inner circle was broken. His brother had passed away also. So his brother's son, my mother's cousin, got a large portion of the shares. So yeah. So for those of us who do have children, and we admit it, yes, of course, we love our children, but are there also cases where the child is estranged? Right? Estranged children. I have the other day, remember I told you guys I had a phone call from this lady, right? So this lady called me and she was saying, she wanted my opinion. What would happen if she nominated all her monies to her grandchildren, right? Nominate everything to my grandchild, actually. I would nominate all to my chuchu, because in her words, I don't want to give any money to my children because my children left me behind. My children, they don't call me. I feel that they don't care anymore. So I feel that they don't deserve my CPF monies. I want to nominate my grandchild. Can I do that? Is it wrong? So she asked me 2 questions. Can I do that and is it wrong? What do you think, Astrid? Can she do that?
I would say she can do that, but whether it's right or wrong, that's a very tough question to answer. Because we can't actually use these tools to actually block any Faraid beneficiaries. That's from my what I understand. Yeah, you can use it as a tool to maybe give some of your beneficiaries, I would say, but to block someone off specifically, that's where it's wrong. So yeah.
But then again, it's hibah. Fatwa says it's a hibah, you can give it to anybody, so it won't be part of your Faraid account. So how?
In case you're wondering, Zul is referencing the fatwa from Muiz of 2010, talking about CPF nominations being a form of hibah and an estate planning tool. And so Asri is absolutely right. Number 1, first question, yes. Can she do it? Yes, she can. You can nominate anybody. You can nominate your children.
It's like the guy who nominated the China woman for CPF.
Yes.
His whole CPF account.
The one, the old apek going,
business.
right? He nominated his offshore mistress to be the beneficiary. Can. You can nominate anybody you want. You can even nominate organizations. It's quite common for people to nominate, for example, Wakaf Ilmu, Wakaf Masyarakat. They want to nominate a charity, they can. But on the second part, is it wrong? So now there's a fatwa from Muiz that says that the CPF nomination is permissible. So then she asked me, is it wrong? Guess what's my answer? Tak tahu. I don't know. I was so stressed out when she asked that question. All I said to the makcik was, Cik, at the end of the day, this is your intention, your niat. I can tell you from the legal perspective that yes, the nomination will go through. It's absolutely fine. But whether or not is right or wrong is up to you. Because I cannot tell you from a religious perspective whether you are doing the right or the wrong thing. As long as your heart is clear and your niat is clear, your intentions are clear, then ultimately you can go ahead and do whatever you want. I will simply advise you on matters of the dunya, matters of the akhirat. Anybody ustaz kat luar mana-mana nak tolong, nak chip in on this? Kita pun need help.
We should get Ustaz Harun one of these days.
Yeah, we should get Ustaz Harun on for our podcast. Yeah, okay, I'll drop him a text in a bit. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's absolutely real. We have cases like this where people come to us and say, I don't want to give this person. When I die, I don't want my child to get. When I die, I don't want this relative of mine to get the money. And so long story short, at the end of the day, the most important thing to understand is what's our desired outcome? What do you want? Who do you want to give to? When do you want to give it to? Right? We talk about the 5 eyes of Islamic finance. We talk about inheritance being the 5th eye of Islamic finance, where you give what you want to, who you want to, when you want to, in the way you want to, when you want to. And so we'll cover all of this in a much, much deeper session on the 13th of July 2024, our second live Wasiat and Faraid class. Due to popular demand, so many people were asking, Alhamdulillah, where we'll talk to you and show you how you can plan your Islamic inheritance, where we'll use nominations, joint bank accounts. You'll look at your Faraid scenarios. What happens when you die? What happens when your spouse dies? Which of your children gets your assets? Who is involved? And most
Hear horror stories.
And we'll share all the horror stories. Yes, and we got plenty, gentlemen. We got plenty. So join us on the 13th of July 2024. Look out for the other dates as well. Any last things you want to share, gentlemen, about you?
Well, I was just thinking about this. I mean, like, if sons block off the outer circle, how about if a son is out of wedlock?
Oh my God, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. So, just to answer your question, anybody out there, if you do have a son before he got nikah, right? Technically an illegitimate child. Number one, the child does not inherit from the father. He only inherits from the mother. And so from a Faraid perspective, the child, son, does block the inner circle for the mother, but for the case of the father, technically he did not have. Scary, right?
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm just reminded about the story I was thinking about last week. Someone that I know, he actually has divorced twice and he's on the 3rd marriage. 2 of his kids are out of wedlock. If I recall it correctly, he does have a son, but I'm not sure the one who's out of wedlock, whether he's the son or the daughter. So yeah.
Go and ask, and then ask him, and then we'll use it as a case study. Because, I mean, we have to be real. As much as we want to think that society is nice and clean and idealistic and everybody is on or above board, situations happen. Right? Situations
as much as it is a taboo topic, a touchy topic in our community, but face it that it's happening out there.
Yeah, it is. It is. And on that note, the rates of teenage pregnancies are on the rise. Right? Yeah. It's not going to be a topic for today, but when we saw the statistics from that were released, teenage pregnancies are on the rise. And it's scary. As fathers ourselves, we are concerned for our daughters, we're concerned about our sons. So, I mean, what can we do? Tie them up, throw them into the store, and then once in a while feed them? Asri, seriously considering it?
Set them free at 21.
No, that's why you see me. I'm starting to exercise so that I can reenact the scene in Bad Boys 2. You know.
Damn, nigga, you look 30. 15, you look 30. And talking about Bad Boys, this next movie is coming out, right?
Yeah.
Bad Boys
Yeah.
Ride or Die. So if any of you who are watching us, you get the reference, damn you old. Zul, any last words before we end this podcast episode for today?
Do look out for our apa tu class punya promotions pada upcoming class on the 13th of July happen 13th of July from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, and do follow all of us on our various social media handles. Asri is on at asrirosli.sg. Zul is on at zulkifli.sg, and you can find me at Modern Muslim Finance. If you follow any of these guys, they do have promo codes for the class for you to use. Do look out for those. We will see you at the live class, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.